followed by the Pledge of Allegiance and our national anthem.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ramirez, present.
Janie, Ruddy.
Furry, present.
Christy, Chong.
LaShakia Moore.
Any special announcements? Okay, we'll move on to board member liaison updates.
All right, we were going to start with Matanzas High School. So they will have Pirate Night coming up. It will be Thursday, August 6th from 6 to 7:30. So any incoming freshmen, you definitely want to try to get over there if you can. So opportunity students, they can meet with the campus, leadership, they're gonna have club opportunities, athletics, anything you need to know for an incoming pirate. And tentatively, August 19th at 6 p.m. is the SAC meeting. So we scheduled that prior, but anything can change. But I have had upcoming freshmen, grandparents, guardians, parents reach out to see how they can be more involved. So SAC is very, it's amazing. So if you're able to attend, so keep an eye out for SAC, School Advisory Council. Definitely a great opportunity. Belterre Elementary, so their Meet the Teacher, it's scheduled for Friday, August 7th, and families, it's split up with last names, so, but basically, they do have time frames 9 to 10 and then 10 to 11. However, depending on the name, if you can't make a certain time because your last name is ours, just go to what you can. They will definitely understand. If you can, they're just trying to split it up as best as possible. You can meet the teacher. They'll also have activities, things like that. So very highly recommended. And then Miss Michelle Moore, she is the Belterre Elementary Teacher of the Year, and she represented Flagler Schools at the amazing celebration last week. So that was amazing. And I'll tell you, so her class that she teaches, so she has incredible students. And if you ever have the chance to volunteer at any of our schools, she, and as well as all of our faculty and staff would love it, but something as simple as laminating. So I went in just to hang out, and she's like, oh my goodness, can you laminate? So laminating is super easy. It's actually kind of fun. So that's just one thing. If you're looking for anything extra to do, Belterre and all of our schools could use help with that. And EPAC, so our chair, we've talked a lot about her, Diane Santamaria. So she has been coordinating with different campuses, starting with elementary schools, with PTOs and SAT committees to kind of bring any type of resources for exceptional students, the information to the schools, just to help out a little bit with that. So stay tuned for that. I'm trying to help coordinate things with her and then the district staff, so we have a great plan and excited about that. We had our principal's breakfast to celebrate. So Miss Moore was there, and there was a mini Miss LaShakia Moore, as well as a mini fire chief, Mr. Berryhill there that helped. So it was awesome, but great communication between the school district and the city, so how we can collaborate more and always moving forward with that. For Florida School Board Association, there's so many things going on, but basically there's a leadership training I'll be going to at the end of August to help support and mentor all of our newly elected school board members in Florida. So I'm very excited to learn and bring those ideas back to our district and just communicating more with different district members and what's working, what's not, can we implement it, can we not. It's just a great opportunity, so I'm excited about that. And that really just concludes everything, so thank you.
Yeah, so it seems that the teachers or the principals at the schools that I've been in communication with from Fire, Buddy Taylor, and FPC, they have a few openings. However, they've had some good applicants. Although it seems like a lower number of applicants than in the past, but certified nonetheless. So we're happy to see that. And I've just checked in with FPC this morning as they had an allied health role. I wanted to see if that was filled. So make sure you're checking out our employment pages as to the opportunities, as we're still working to fill some slots that may have come up last minute as teachers and other faculty and staff change, shift their careers over the summer. The Back to School Jam is August 1st. We put on a pretty amazing event for that. Lots of great resources. I see a lot of parents always asking about what they need for school supplies. Typically, that's not given out until after Meet the Teacher, because every teacher, every classroom has different requirements. But if you hit up the Back to School Jam, you're going to have your basics covered. As Ms. Ramirez said, the schools are reminding you to complete your annual registration for your device distribution. Make sure that that's completed. We don't want to wait last minute. FPC is also accepting applications for students for parking passes, which is a premium on that campus. Props to the Leo Club, as they already have their events on the calendar. So be sure, if you're an incoming freshman, to look at the FPC extracurricular activities. The more involved you are, the better experience you'll have at that school. And the FPC marching band is actually having their band camp starting this week, and so is Matanzas. I saw Mr. Schultz was posting. So thank you to those band students for sweating it out over the summer, learning the drills. We're looking forward to the shows. There is a Value Adjustment Board meeting on August 27th regarding organizational meeting. I'm not sure if that impacts us. I know we typically choose our seats in November, so it seems misaligned. I don't know if we have some insight on that. I attended the Teacher of the Year Gala down in Orlando to support Ms. Moore from Belterre. It was a wonderful evening. She had wonderful things to report about the week where they were enmeshed and embedded in collaborative activities, learning from the best educators from across the state. She was just energized and excited to put into practice what she's learned. I would love for us to have a collaborative session, or maybe take advantage some of our current and past Teachers of the Year to allow them to have breakout sessions in our professional development activities, where I know we do a great job of providing choice, but I would love to be able to spread some of the amazing strategies that she's learned there. Also, as the advocacy liaison for the FSBA, you'd think that the summer would be pretty quiet regarding legislative updates. I just wanted to share with you all one item that came across actually just, I believe, yesterday. So there was a federal update. And I think we're going to have to dissect what this means, but essentially the U.S. Department of Education rescinded the guidelines for eliminating discrimination and denial of services on the basis of race, color, national origin, sex, and handicap in vocational education programs, which was first issued in 1979. And this makes me kind of remind me of the MOU that we recently had in front of us from the University of North Florida, where we were told, well, if it's not in the MOU, we still can't discriminate because it's federal law. I think that there's a difference clearly between maybe what is legally acceptable and what is ethically or morally acceptable. And it, as we could see, is either on the federal level, some items are being disbanded. So, however, you know, essentially the communication has been, even though they're rescinding this, it doesn't mean we can still discriminate against individuals of these protected classes. But again, as we erode each one of these away, we have to be very careful. And so I hope to learn more of how this might impact our policies and how we can veer towards what is not only legally acceptable, but morally and ethically acceptable. Thank you.
All right, so I'll start off with the small school district consortium here. Basically, there's not a lot of legislative updates there, but what does continue to be a theme of topic is the property tax constitutional amendment. Now, I'm not advocating for or against it by mentioning this, but just to keep in mind that it is going to take a 60% vote of the Florida electorate to change the Constitution. Schools are exempt from that directly, but not indirectly. So just know that if it does pass, schools will have to find other ways to fund things that were provided by the county potentially. So just to be aware, keep you updated as things continue to come down the pipe. For the Flagler Volusia Transportation Organization, not a lot to report there, but we are still in the holiday travel, the summer travel season, so we have a lot of people on the road. We've got students out riding around on their e-bikes still. They're not back in school yet, so we just have a couple practical tips that we want to share with the general public. You know, travel during off-peak hours to reduce traffic and fatigue. Before you travel, you know, this is a good checklist. Check your tires, your brakes, your fluids, and your lights. Plan your route and rest breaks. Avoid driving when tired. Don't leave your valuables visible in parked cars and lock your vehicles. Stay alert and avoid distractions, especially when driving in unfamiliar areas. Be practically mindful to watch for pedestrians, cyclists, and other road users, especially in parks and beaches, neighborhoods, and reduce speeds and increase following distance in wet and rainy conditions. Just some practical tips and reminders to keep us all safe on the road and on our pedestrians. A lot of the things that my colleagues have already covered, I won't go back in, but registration, back to school jam, thanks for highlighting those things. At Old Kings Elementary, though, they are having their Meet the Teacher on August 7th, from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. They're also telling everybody to go ahead and get their car rider tags. They're now available for pickup. And also, they're going to be starting an after-school flag football league, which I think is a great fun addition to Old Kings Elementary. I know my kids would have loved that, to have that when they're still playing flag football. And that will be available for boys and girls grades 3 through 5th grade. And there is a cost associated with it, but contact the school and they'll give you the details there. And lastly, with Old Kings, they're going to be doing Walk Your Owl to Class Monday, August 10th, Tuesday, August 11th, and Wednesday, August 12th. And then on Thursday, August 13th, we'll begin normal drop-off procedures. over at Old Kings, over at Indian Trails. They're excited to be celebrating their 30th anniversary this year, which that's a great milestone. They'll also be doing their ITMS Walk the Hall event on the 6th of August, 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. And they'll be able to walk their schedules, and also they'll have informational tables throughout and at the cafeteria. Also, just a reminder to everyone that it is still the Florida tax-free holiday for school supplies, so you do have from July 20th to August 20th to pick up those supplies tax-free. And that's all I have for today.
All right, I'll start with the Chamber of Commerce. This month we did have that legislative update with Senator Leak and Representative Greco. Some of us got to be there, and we just thank them for coming. I was at Hammond Dunes, and thank them for giving us an update. That was a great time just to hear from them. July 29th will be Flagler Cares Health Night. That will be from 3 to 6 p.m. at 160 Cypress Point Parkway. This event includes free box lunches, vision screenings, and free resources to help families get ready for back to school. For Flagler Auditorium, we just welcome Mr. Craig Uppercue. Had a chance to say hi to him out there and into his new role as the director of the Fitzgerald Performing Arts Center. Looking forward to some of the fall events that will be coming up. And yeah, I think it's the same across the district, but Bunnell Wadsworth Meet the Teacher will be August 7th. Same thing, that's staggered by your last name. And yeah, I don't have a lot for my liaison updates, so thank you. Okay, we'll move on to any changes or additions to the agenda.
We do not have any.
All right, can I get a motion to approve the agenda for today?
Move approval?
Second.
Moved by Mr. Furry, second by Ms. Ruddy, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Do we have anyone for public comments?
No, we do not.
We'll move on to 6.01, Daytona State College Dual Enrollment Articulation Agreement with Mr. Reeves.
Good afternoon, Chair, Board, Superintendent Moore. Before you today is our annual renewal of our articulation agreement with Daytona State College. I just want to direct your attention to just the summary page of the agreement, which highlights the changes. Page 2 of the articulation agreement had section 16 deals with scheduling, and as an approved amendment that codified some of the work from the statutes from the state. Section 5 on page 9 updated initial eligibility requirements for the State Board of Education, specifically barring undocumented immigrants from admission to a state public college or university. Page 11 deals with the addition of the option of the fact college algebra to Florida advanced course test. We do not participate in that because we offer college algebra on our campuses and articulate our kids to DSC, so that's not required. And lastly, section 15 and 16 on page 17 include language approving, if you remember, I had to bring before you an amendment with regard to transportation, which was a statute change. That's now embedded in the agreement. Any questions?
Thank you,
so
Mr.
much.
Reeves.
Mr. Reeves?
Thank you.
Okay, 7.01, Student Teacher Affiliation Agreement with the University of St. Augustine. Mr. Walker and Mr.
Tucson Robertson.
Tucson
Good
Robertson.
afternoon. Good afternoon. How you doing today?
Doing great, thank you.
Okay, so we've been contacted by University of St. Augustine. They want a student-teacher affiliation agreement. And in this agreement, we would have provide them with opportunities for their physical therapists, occupational therapists, speech and language pathologists, speech and language pathologists, nurses, and some physical assistants to train on our campuses and in our buildings. So this is something that will provide us with an opportunity to create some relationships within them, which we can fill some vital positions that in years past we struggled to fill, such as our occupational therapists as well as our speech and language pathologists.
But these are students, so it's like a residency program
Yes.
that they have to do. And so when our parents are having students who need PT or OT, are they notified that these individuals are not yet necessarily graduates or license holders of these fields and that they're students?
We have to say how the data is gonna come.
Yeah.
This internship, these opportunities for these future professionals that we'd love to have work with Flagler County Schools, they wouldn't be working alone. They'd be working alongside the professionals with them.
I see,
So-
I misunderstood. I thought you were trying to
Yeah, no.
supplement, so
No,
it's
no, no.
like a teacher.
Like an
It's
internship,
an
just like a
internship.
teacher.
Got you, thank you. And so then, what about, let's say, when you have, like this, the FERPA, or not FERPA, HIPAA, non-privacy laws, right? HIPAA, how does that work with internships for medical
There will be
professionals?
a
How do
letter.
we ensure?
There will be a letter that is sent from we'll say speech language therapist, the certified speech language pathologist will send a letter to her caseload letting them know that there is a student intern that will be working alongside her.
Okay, all right, awesome, thank you.
And I just, you said nursing, but it's not nursing. I know it
It's
could be,
part of
but
it,
we're not taking on nursing because it's not checked off on
It's not
the
checked
box,
off.
right? So, and then the only question, it has an auto renewal for every 5 years, so it's a 5-year contract and then it auto renews. Is that something that is, I guess, is that okay? You guys, you think that's good for this?
It allows
I
us
wouldn't
to
know
have
any
the flex-
different,
It
but
allows
I
us to
know.
have the flexibility.
Okay.
And then, should for whatever reason this wouldn't work out, we would
Yeah, I
follow
know
the
you-
clause regarding termination.
Yeah.
But it allows it that way. We have something on file. As folks reach out and go, hey, I'm attending the University of St. Augustine. I would love to be able to do this. It helps us know, oh, okay, cool. This didn't just lapse, 9 months ago. It allows us to be more proactive. I
And
would
we've
say.
never used them for this, right, that I saw. They are amazing, so like, I've seen the product that they have had, so when I saw it, I think it will be helpful because we're always looking for a speech pathologist. And I know, obviously, pay, with public sector, it's a little bit different, but I'm really hopeful because it's not that far. Those 3 topics, we are utilizing them more and more, so I'm excited for it, and thank you for, working on that.
Anybody else? Really exciting to have that, so thank you. And that is 8.01, transportation, Mr. Walker.
Mr. Walker.
Hey, good afternoon, Board and Superintendent. I am here today to just provide a transportation update as we go into the 26-27 school year. Sitting down with my team, we looked over some of the things that we wanted to improve, some of the things that we didn't want to encounter that we had experienced in this past school year. One of the things that we looked at was route optimization. Last year, the office staff drove 178 out of 180 days of the school year, which means that they were not able to effectively perform their job duties. Supervisors were bus drivers, dispatch routers were bus drivers. So in that, we identified opportunities for optimization as we looked at our single tier routes, and we developed those to be double tiers, and we took our double tiers to triple tiers. We ended the last school year, 25-26, with 75 routes. This year, we're expecting to go into the 26-27 school year with 66 total routes. So, what does this mean with route optimization? It means that we have the ability for stakeholder support. We have the ability to provide adequate customer service to our schools, our families, and our staff, as well as our students. This means that phones will be answered, and we have supervisor presence on our bus ramps. It also means cost efficiencies. With less buses on the road, we have lower fuel and maintenance costs. And it gives us an adequate efficiency to manage our staffing shortages by making it easier to schedule and cover vacancies. So in this, we formulated a team of drivers to conduct mock runs of the routes that we have created to look at travel paths. They will come back with feedback for any hazards or any operational inefficiencies within the travel paths for bus stop accuracy and timing of those routes. One of the enhancements we did to our easy routing database was we added real-time GPS navigation. Our goal is to train all school staff going into the school year. We're going to arrive at all of the Meet the Parents 30 minutes early to train those staffs who will be monitoring the bus ramps. This provides the schools efficiency to monitor and track their buses at their leisure, and it reduces congestion over the airwaves when they're looking for a bus. Another enhancement we did was to our Here Comes the Bus parent app. We added or uploaded student photos for a more accurate replica of those students. We were encountering students that were in high school and they may have had pictures from middle school or elementary. So now we can easily identify those students, and it benefits our substitute drivers as well. We're going to train all of our staff and provide refreshers. We're definitely going to be enforcing the importance of student scanning. For those students with IDs, we will board those students first, and the students that do not have IDs, we will board them second. This is to help prevent inadvertent scan errors and to ensure accurate student identification. One of the things we wanted to continue was our kindergarten seating, where we will identify those kindergartners using a magnetized red K over the seat to prevent students from disembarking without parental guardianship or supervision. And transportation is currently evaluating the implementation of bus patrol technology. We did a meeting on July 22nd. Right now, I'm reaching out to some of the other districts, Hillsborough being one. I did a meeting with them today to obtain their contract, Lee County and Osceola. What does this mean for Flagler schools? It means more public awareness to change those unwarranted driving habits, thus keeping our students safe as they board and onboard the bus. It enhances student safety, and it enhances collaboration between Flagler schools and local law enforcement agencies. And one of the last verbs we want to shout out to the parents is the importance of completing their annual registration. We need all information updated and accurate. We want to implore them to download the Here Comes the Bus app. If they have any questions, they can contact me at walkero@flaglerschools.com. We will be sending out all bus assignment information on August 5th. They can check that information via the parent portal in Parent Square, and we respectfully ask that the parents and guardians exercise patience for the first 2 weeks of school. As we know, things can be kind of chaotic, and everyone is getting situated and acclimated with who the students are, where the students should be going.
How are we looking for staffing?
We now have 62 bus drivers. We have 6 drivers in class, and we have 4 in the portal. Once they clear HR, those drivers, the 6 that are in class are being trained now. They should be finished by next week, and we just started a class today. So
How many total do you need?
we have 66 routes. We're looking to have at least 74 employees. So we'll probably be too shy of that once we start school.
And how many routes are there?
66.
66.
So last year, Ms. Moore and you came forward to say that some of the struggles were partly because we were hiring only at the number of routes we needed. So it sounds like you are currently 4 shy of the routes we need, but your goal is to hit 8 drivers over the routes we need.
That's the goal.
Okay. And is that the number of absences you typically have in a given day?
Yes, we could have anywhere from 8 to 10, but
8 to 10.
8 to 10.
So that's like 20% of your drivers are calling out every day?
Yep. That's
That
in
seems
lieu
excessive.
of the approved absences.
Any disciplinary action for calling out?
Yes, we do. So,
I'm wondering if we could do something more like positive reinforcement, if we could look into, and this may be, bargaining related, but offering, if we're gonna have to pay for substitutes anyway, and it's costing us double, could we essentially provide some sort of reward quarterly for those who use less than the average amount of leave or have a certain amount that they've banked?
Walton County does that. Is it Walton? I
They do
believe?
that for teachers
Teachers.
as well.
there has been talks, Ms. Ruddy, about doing an incentive for attendance, but it's only been talks, so.
Okay. Maybe we could do also something informal, right? If it's, made a little bit visible, like, hey, what if you had a thermometer on the wall? Let's try to drive down our average absence rate, not necessarily calling people out by name, but lending itself to building the culture of what that goal might be, right, to drive that down. So I'm glad to see that we're hopefully filling that, but essentially it's causing us, the district, more money because we're having to overhire for an 18% absentee rate. With regard to the bus changes, last year we worked together with Mr. Deasing in order to embed your chart to make it easy for parents to see, and it would make it quicker for them to identify if their bus is going to be late. Is that something that's going to be used
Yes.
this year? Also, when I met with you guys last year, you had discussed that there was an additional tool that would use AI to optimize routes, and that the holdback was some of the technology in the back end, like the current system, their automated protocol or API information wasn't passing back to the new software. Has that been rectified? Are we looking at utilizing that?
Not now, we're not looking at utilizing that. The developers of the database, Easy Routing, they do have AI technology integrated into the system, which does auto routing, but it's 20–30% AI. The rest of the percent is human component. So right now, it's not foolproof. It's not something that we're looking into until they can get it foolproof.
So is it that the market is just short of offerings? Is there something limiting our own capacity to put this into our own AI models and evaluate our routes?
It's just a matter of the developers.
Yeah, so the system uses it, but we're not at a place that we just use that completely. So our team is going back from what they have developed and said, this is the most optimum, to then looking at what does that look like from our community, and having each of our routers go through to make sure that what the AI has done is compatible with the needs that we have.
But it sounds like the AI that this particular software company is leveraging isn't really the top tier that maybe it could be. And so I'm wondering, have we looked to see if there are other vendors that would have a superior product?
We have looked at other vendors. Not to say that it's not top tier, it's just not top tier yet. As they gather feedback from us, they go back to their programmers and install and implement those developments. So we are working with them on the auto routing, but it's not at a point where we would fully implement it right now.
Okay. What are the types of efficiencies you're doing with your routes? I mean, just so everybody is aware, and they don't come for me. I've had 3 children, still have a 3rd child who rides the bus every day. They've been on the bus since elementary school, because they didn't always go to the schools that we worked at. So let's see, 23 minus 8. So for 15 years, I've had experience with the school bus system. Now, so when I say this, I know there are exceptions, but when I go out and I see my kid at the bus stop, there's like a bus stop every 2 blocks. And, you know, I understand that sometimes we're not necessarily, there isn't a positive correlation in people's minds about having children walk when it's dark out, but Palm Coast has really done, I mean, it's almost like there's no nighttime anymore. The amount of lights on the streets are insane. So I would imagine that in certain areas, we could reduce the number of stops. Are those the types of efficiencies that you're working on?
Exactly.
Okay.
So we are creating centralized stops that will be infinite stops from year to year.
Okay.
So it does provide efficiencies in the pickup and drop off of the students.
And that started last year, and as, you know, give you a moment, you will remember that we received lots of feedback from individuals that are like, my stop changed.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we're trying to get our families to understand is that we are trying to be as efficient as we can, but some of the stops did have to move. What we don't want to have, though, is every year the stops are just moving over and over. And so that is some work that they did last year, and they continued into this year. But to your point, Ms. Ruddy, people get very, very upset when their bus stop changes.
Right. I
but
wouldn't
we're
imagine
trying.
we'd save a spot every year. I don't think my kids ever had a stop. And I grew up riding the bus. I don't think I ever had the same stop twice.
Well,
So,
that is something that is
I mean,
is common here, and many of our families, we had a lot of pushback last year around that. And to your point, even about the optimization, I think of one bus stop that comes to mind that is off of Old Kings. Like when we put it into the system, it says this is where the stop should be. But Mr. Walker has to go out there, he has to look at it. That's going back to those drivers that did the mock routes to make sure that, yes, the students are loading from the correct side of the road. We're not having buses that are having to back up and turn around, those things, because there are some, you know, unique paths to our community that don't necessarily make it easy for a bus, a bus to turn around. Yeah.
So speaking of that, you had piloted bus patrol, which was supposed to essentially catch people who were not stopping for the bus.
We never
They
piloted
didn't
bus
pilot
patrol.
Oh, I thought,
It was another company.
We
okay,
had
it
two
was a
different
different
other
name.
vendors, yeah.
What was the name of the vendor?
One was Gatekeeper, the other was Safely.
Okay, and so what were your thoughts and outcomes of those?
Having met with Bus Patrol, and I met with them in 2023 when they first started implementing the stop arm infraction systems, I can say that they have developed tremendously with this system. One of the questions I asked them was what sets them apart from the other systems. They offer internal cameras with their external cameras. So that's a cost that could save our district because they will supply us with those internal cameras.
And they're so confident with essentially the infractions, they essentially feel that it would be cost neutral for us because.
Oh, yeah.
And so the next step would be to have discussions with the sheriff's office on it.
Yes.
Okay, and what's the timeline on that?
We will have no involvement in it. They take care of everything. The next thing is for Ms. Johnson and I to set up a meeting with our local law enforcement.
When do you
agencies.
expect to set that up?
Right now, I don't know. I'll discuss that with her.
So right now, we're getting the contracts from the other
Yes.
districts, but
To compare?
to compare, and then, so we can establish what we need to move forward with our local sheriff's office.
So it's Safely and Gatekeeper, we ruled them out because,
They involve us.
It's
Their
the manpower,
system,
we can't do
the
it.
manpower and the system is not as I should say, advanced as Bus Patrol.
okay.
Bus Patrol uses AR where they use radar. So it's definitely well more advanced.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for the updates, and also while prepping, I myself downloaded the Here Comes the Bus app. So for those that have not done that, even though I was a lifelong bus rider, my children never had to, but next year will be a first time. So I'm excited about that. So thank you, that prompted me to do it. So parents do that. So I have similar questions of Miss Ruddy. I'm more curious on the timeline. I know this is not a workshop on bus patrol, so I'm curious. I would love for that to be as best as possible sped up, and reasons why is so we can talk about that as a board. Not necessarily a time frame, but I feel like this will help overall, because with bus patrol, they offer the funding you get, driver recruitment and driver retention, that you can utilize for driver bonuses, which will help with this issue of us not having enough bus drivers right now. And I spoke to several counties that have unions, and it is completely possible for this to work. So
We do anticipate the meeting being scheduled within the next month, but Ms. Johnston is not in right now. Once she returns, that's their next step.
But thank you for, because I know I just brought it up very recent, so thank you for jumping on that, because I think it will help other problems, so thank you for that. The only other thing, so, and I spoke with Ms. Johnson when we met, I want to say last week, and I know she probably has brought it up. Where are we at, and maybe explain it to me a little better. So if I'm a parent, it's whatever time, 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 3:30, calling, and you know, we did have a lot of our district staff, bus driver, or you know, your team driving the buses, so no one was able to. But is there a way, and I mentioned it, you know, just like on call. So one example, and I'm not saying to use this, but Google Voice has where you have a phone number. It's an app on the phone or on your phone, on the computer. Parents could potentially call that phone number. They can text that phone number. It pops up in the email. It pops up on the phone. And so that's just an idea, because that's kind of what I'm getting at. I'm trying to see how can we solve the issue where if a parent needs to physically talk to someone or text, they have a phone number that we can implement into Google Voice. It's an app. They can text, hey, bus route 33, my son, John Smith, you know, but what is it? Here Comes the Bus app. It's, you know, not here, whatever. But whoever gets that email, it pops up in that email account. They can literally just click and type, and it goes right to their phone. So I guess that's what I've been talking about this whole time. Like, we need something, and I don't know if we're even getting close to that.
Our new phone system will allow for us to be able to do those features that you're referring to right now. And we can send to the board some information from Mr. Deasing on our phone system and its ability to do that. And when it comes to communication, of course, we need the patience of the first couple weeks. However, we have a communication plan that allows for transportation to have support from other departments to ensure that when families call, that there is someone that will be able to answer the phone for them while our buses are out out into the community. And so we do have a system in place already that will provide that backup to the transportation office. Sometimes it's it's in those first couple weeks, it's merely volume of the number of calls that may be coming in at one time. But we do have a plan in place for that as well, where it will ring into transportation department, it will ring into other departments in order to ensure that someone can answer. So we do have a communication plan in place to ensure that someone is answering the phone, but we are, as we transition our phone system, we are looking at ways that families can message the transportation department, be it through Parent Square or through our phone system.
Okay, thank you. And the communication plan, is it different from last May? Like, it's been implemented and like changed since like this summertime? It's a new communication plan?
We used it last year, and we were able to we used it last year after the first couple weeks of school. We were able to implement it, and we saw a reduced volume. If a family is saying, I called and no one answered. Like, there are times that you're gonna call and someone's gonna have to call you back. But during the time that our buses are rolling, there is somebody present to answer the phone. But if you call, Supervisor X line at 12 o'clock noon and you get their voicemail, you may have to leave a voicemail. But while our students are rolling, there will be someone that will be available to answer the phone, so we can answer any calls that are related to an emergency related to those buses.
And I'm excited to hear about, I just use Google Voice as an example, but there's multiple companies that are similar. So thank you very much. Appreciate the update.
We will also implement the system that we used last year, where it will allow families to complete a form that will say, hey, my address needs to be updated, or my kid wasn't assigned to a bus, because those don't require us to necessarily have a conversation with someone. It allows for the team to be able to go forward and continue to address those issues as they come up. The biggest thing that we need for going into this year is we have to ensure that our routers and our supervisor and our director of transportation can stay within their role and not have to shift and be a driver for almost every day of the school year. And so when we think about them being a driver during the day, almost every day, the afternoon bus routes start at what time? 1:40. So from 1:40 to, 5 o'clock potentially, they're not in the office. Well, the buses don't roll in until after 9 o'clock. So you have from 9 o'clock to 1 o'clock, you also got to give them a break where they're not in their roles. And so when they shift out of their roles, it breaks down our efficiency. And so that's what we're really working on, to make sure our routes we optimize our routes as much as possible. We have the staff for those routes, as well as some overage. Mid-year, we changed the way that we do our hiring for like our sub drivers. So we've made some changes that will better position us going into the year. But this is transportation. So the beginning days of schools, we're gonna hear from families that there's a concern about my stop. But what we need parents to do right now is make sure that they have their annual registration. If they don't have that annual registration completed, then their child is not assigned to a bus. So, well, my kid has been on a bus for the last 3 years. We got to know that you're coming back to school. You have to complete the annual registration. You have to select that you're going to be on a bus, and we will route your child onto a bus. They have to complete that. If a parent has moved and then they wait until the day before or meet the teacher to tell us that they're moved, they're going to be upset when their child doesn't have a bus on the first day of school. It does take time, and so we're doing everything that we can to be prepared. So the students who their family has have completed their annual registration, they are assigned a bus, and we're ready and prepared for them. And so we really need our families to do annual registration, make sure their information is accurate on annual registration, so we can assign them to the proper bus.
Furry, any comments?
Yeah, just on the, on page 5 of the presentation, easy routing update. And then when you said the addition of real-time GPS navigation, is that in the bus, or is that on the app?
It's on the app.
On the app.
So the circle around the little bus thingamajig, you can track that as it moves through its
So what because my kids have used the bus, and we use that app. And is it just that there was a delay before, and now you'll be seeing it actually physically moving in real time? Is that the change?
And we also have the ability to set the parameters. So it may have been that the parameters were set that once the bus enters 2 miles from your child's stop, then you could track the bus. So we have that ability to set those parameters as well. So.
Okay. So what, were there, so I'm just trying to understand what changed over. So last year we did not have real-time GPS.
No.
So what were parents experiencing before?
They were totally reliant on the app to send them the notification, and once it gets into the range. This is the routing database. So it's web-based, they can download it. We can give them access, but it's only view access if they want to see their buses. That's
Yeah, so
something that
this
we're
really
willing to
is
do.
for our schools,
Mhm.
because our schools, so when we're thinking about, the buses are out there, there's a bus that's running late, our schools would call over to transportation, adding more volume to the call. They would go onto the radio station, Goose Bus, can we give you an ETA? Whereas now, our schools can go on and they can say, okay, the Goose Bus is turning on Royal Palms, they should be here at Rimfire Elementary School in the next 2 minutes.
Okay. So it's more for schools?
It's more for schools.
Okay, got it. Because I do recall, you could see the bus leave the depot last year.
From Here Comes the Bus,
And then,
yes.
yeah, here for the parent
Yes.
side of it, and then eventually getting to your stop.
Stop,
there.
yeah.
Sometimes it wasn't reporting for whatever, maybe a technical glitch,
Mhm.
intermittently, that was rare.
And if you have those concerns, please let us know as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Because that may be a call to the vendor
Mhm.
to see what the error is.
And then, so will this will ultimately also enhance the parents' experience in Here Comes the Bus app as well?
No,
Oh,
these are two different databases.
Okay, so they're
Yeah,
entirely
two
separate,
different
okay.
databases.
I just wanted to understand that, okay. And then, so with the scanning of the IDs, now that's great that we have updated information. You had mentioned, you're gonna scan those who have that are registered first and then deal with those second. How is that gonna be managed, as they're coming on the bus? Is the bus driver gonna send that child
Yeah, we
back
asked them
off
to
the
step
bus?
to the back of the line.
Uh-huh,
We'll
gotcha.
get all of those students with the IDs
Okay,
first.
because they usually scan it once they've come into the bus, like they
Mhm.
come upstairs and then they scan. So then you're gonna say, go back down. I'm just thinking the logistics of that when you have
So our-
a busy bus stop with a line of kids going
Yeah.
down.
So what we need is two things, is from the parent side, we need our families to ensure that their child has access to their IDs. Every single day, they need to have their physical ID or they need to have their digital ID available to them. This part is mainly an issue for our elementary schools. And what we are asking, and we're gonna continue to follow up from our elementary schools, is the staff at the school has to support transportation with this. Our bus drivers have really solely been responsible for it, so they're scanning. We need for our schools and our teachers to ensure, okay, our students have their IDs as they're going to the bus. We have, staff that's on bus duty that are there. We need them to be a part of that. That is the huge shift with this. It's really was on transportation, and now we're really saying to our schools, we need you to support us with this. If a student does not have an ID, we're giving our teachers access to be able to print one for them. So for our younger students, we're giving our individual who is assigned to bus supervision, that's oftentimes a dean, giving them the ability to reprint them so that transportation is reducing having to type in a child's name and find them. We are providing transportation also with a list of every student printed out that they can scan, but again, we don't want the inaccuracies to hit. So we need our students to have their ID. So when they're coming up, I'm scanning your ID versus me saying, I know that's OJ, but it could be OJ's sister or brother or whomever. Let me scan this, and it's the wrong one that the bus driver has scanned. We've had that happen before, where our supervisors even have been, I've keyed it in and I pressed the wrong thing or I scanned the wrong thing, and now I think this kid is on my bus, but they're not really. The students have to have their IDs. We provide them with them, we put them on their backpacks, and so we just need to make sure. We also have built in that at the end of each quarter, we will have a reminder to schools to let's reprint the IDs for individuals that do not have them and have those available for them. This change is really geared around our elementary schools. As our secondary schools do a much better job of making sure that they have their IDs on the person.
And just to add, Mr. Furry, the parents also can print a QR code at home if they have downloaded the app. They have the ability
Yeah.
to do that. If their child loses the physical ID, they can print a temporal ID at home, a QR code that will scan just like a regular
Yeah, I
ID.
believe I did see that. That's in the Here Comes the Bus app, right?
Here Comes the Bus
Yes,
app,
okay.
yeah.
It's easy when it's on their backpack, then it's
Yeah.
attached
Oh,
to
yeah.
the phone.
And it still breaks. I mean, I think my
It
one,
does.
we've gone through
It
4
happens.
and, but they get
Break
used to,
everything.
like you mentioned, Ms. Moore, cafeteria. So their mindset is to have that card. So they'll just get used to it with the bus and everything. I think if we
And
just,
before, we did not have as many people with the ability to print
Yeah.
them. And so we give that ability to more of our staff to be able to do that. We're hoping that that's going to reduce the number of students that show up that do not have it, because we do have more people that can then print or provide it, so that our bus drivers, you know, they shouldn't be running down IDs. They should be at the bus, receiving the students, scanning them on, and preparing to drive them safely home.
And then lastly, just on the bus patrol, I did have the opportunity to experience this about 3 years ago when we bought the new buses. They had a demonstration out here in the parking lot. It was interesting, and it had audible, and you know, the arm came out. Does this, with these vendors, is this one of those things where it's kind of like a red light cam, where it's like they provide the equipment and then there's shared revenue from the sheriff's office? Is that how it works? So we
Yes.
don't have any upfront cost for this here?
So how it works is each infraction will be a $225 fee. If it's a particular bus, the first infraction, all of that $225 will go to bus patrol. Any additional infractions after that, $160 comes to Flagler Schools, and the rest goes to bus patrol, where they pay the magistrate and law enforcement. So we don't do anything. We just let them utilize our equipment and collect.
But they attach the technology to our buses
attach
at
it,
their
yes.
expense?
Yes.
Okay. And then you had said that this particular vendor wants to give us also the cameras for inside the bus
Internal
also?
cameras, yes, that's part of their benefit package.
Now, do they have any access to that footage, the interior of the buses?
Yeah, they would have access to that.
The bus patrol people?
Mhm.
Okay. Is that, right now, we have cameras on the bus now. Is that through Here Comes the Bus?
That's through Safely,
Safely, okay.
say.
So essentially, they would be replacing Safe Fleet in that scenario? And the Safe Fleet, is that their equipment or our equipment that's on the bus?
Safely,
Yes.
the district, I think, purchases that.
Okay, so we have the investment in the cameras already in the buses that we have now, and Safe Fleet just is the kind of the software back end of that to manage all the video footage and access it. So that, we would just abandon our cameras and they would install new ones with this.
Because
bus.
if we need to update right now with Safely, it would cost.
Mhm.
So they would replace any defective equipment at no cost.
Just want to say thank you, Mr. Walker. I know
You're welcome.
I've sent a lot of messages your way, and I just appreciate your hard work and trying to make this work for our families, so thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
That's it,
Walker.
everyone.
It's a difficult role, and our drivers, they do a lot, and so we do ask our families to continue to be patient. We said the same thing to our schools. Be patient, and we will definitely work through it. If they have a concern, please reach out to us. We have his email available.
Great. We'll move on to 9.01, Dr. Angela O'Brien and Mr. Deasing for Lightspeed presentation.
Good afternoon, Board, Chair, Superintendent Moore. We are before you today to talk about Lightspeed and Lightspeed Alert. I believe at your request a few months ago to give some more information around our digital monitoring for student devices. So what is Lightspeed? It's an AI-powered platform for K-12 educational spaces that helps us to manage our digital devices. It can actively filter and block content on the internet. It monitors student activity within their documents and their use on devices to spot any risks to their well-being. And it allows secure tracking and maintenance of our school-issued student devices, both on and off campus. The monitoring does apply to all district-issued device activity at school, at home, and whenever the district device is in use. So things like their Google products, apps, docs, sheets, and internet activity are all monitored. What is not monitored are our students' personal devices, so cell phones, home laptops, family laptops, that sort of thing. Any private family networks, those are not monitored. And then any personal accounts that are on those devices are not monitored.
On the school-issued devices?
Yes.
So if a
If I'm answering that
student
correctly.
signs up for a free Gmail account,
They don't have access to it.
They wouldn't be able to
they
do
wouldn't
that.
have access. They're locked down through our class link.
Essentially, yes.
Okay.
We use some policy pieces that are part of Apple's implementation that allow us to control what accounts can log into which applications.
One of the main components that we'll talk about today is our student safety monitoring, which is referred to as Lightspeed Alert, or a safety check. And this is really so that we can identify at-risk behavior that would prevent self-harm, suicide, bullying, and school violence. And there are a few steps to that. So initially there's AI scanning, so that uses machine learning so that it can scan search queries, emails, chats, and documents for any concerning content that it might capture. There's then a 24/7 human review element, and this includes a team of human safety specialists who review anything that's flagged from the AI to assess the level of risk. And then we have real-time alerts, so there are immediate notifications to school administrators if it reaches a certain threshold. The different incident types that it is monitoring and categorizing are bullying, drugs, sexual abuse and exploitation, which is flagged as explicit, self-harm, violence, and weapons. Once it is flagged, there are 3 levels of concern. The low level of concern is a minor or low risk activity, and this is logged within the system dashboard and is used as a reference or kind of a baseline in the event there would be more concerning behavior. When there is a low level, there are no notification phone calls or emails generated, so we would not be responding to a low level concern unless there were multiple. High is classified as a significant safety point, so that prompts an immediate email to the assigned school and district personnel. And then imminent, this is an immediate threat to a student or others' well-being, and that dispatches simultaneous alerts, and that goes down the safety line until it's solved. So if it's after hours, our district admin would be notified, as well as law enforcement officers. So this chart really kind of captures the last 2 slides that I reviewed and what our responses are to those different levels. Again, at the low level, there's no required response from our staff. At the high level, during school hours, our school staff will respond. District staff will respond during standard office hours. And then at the imminent level, this would go straight to district staff and law enforcement outside of school hours. And during school hours, school staff and district staff would respond. And we would coordinate with law enforcement if we would need to. When we talk about our response, we're really just doing that response in alignment with our standard procedures and protocols that we already have outlined. So things like our student code of conduct, our bullying protocols, if we need to do threat assessment and management of that threat. We have risk assessment procedures that we use if we have concerns about students self-harming. We use our digital learning handbook, school board policy, and then if it is something that may be criminal in nature, working with our school resource deputy and law enforcement consultation. This next slide just outlines the piece that we put into the student code of conduct this year that you recently approved. And this is just a message to our families and our students that that we use this type of monitoring, and that it may lead to discipline or other response based on what the content is. We have some family resources really available so that our families can stay involved and help with monitoring. That's a big part of this process in monitoring your students' access to devices. So our families can subscribe to the weekly online activity report. They can access more details than they would currently get within that subscription on the Lightspeed parent portal. And we are working with Lightspeed to get some additional access for our families as well. You can adjust your child's digital settings, so if you want something blocked that is not currently blocked, you can contact their school, and also using the digital learning handbook that we have available as a guide for digital learning. And then just kind of to wrap up, really, we work collectively so that we can have a safe digital environment for our students. So we've got our technology department who's really managing the infrastructure, the data security, and they're doing that through the Lightspeed systems filter. Our school and district admin are using the Lightspeed alert system. They're reviewing these alerts, they're providing support when something comes up. Our families, we really ask that you continue to review those weekly reports, access your child's use through Lightspeed Parent Portal, and guide their student behavior. And then for our students, using their district tools responsibly, and you can access the digital learning handbook and the student code of conduct for any guidance on that. What questions do you have?
So I think the reason why we wanted to see a highlight of this is because obviously there are certain competitors on the market that are essentially also monitoring students' psychological health. And so my understanding is the difference here with the one that we've chosen is that not only is it monitoring what students are searching, but it's more comprehensive because it's also monitoring, like you said, the location of our devices in essence, and not all of those monitoring providers do both. Is that correct? Like
There's
Gaggle
several different,
specifically,
yeah, I mean,
right?
there's several different companies that kind of have marched into this space. Gaggle has been around for quite some time. We've evaluated Gaggle. We've also done some piloting programs with them and worked through. I think the advantage, or what we're seeing with this piece is it's an all-encompassing platform. This is from end to end, both part for the management of the device as well as the filtering of the device, and then that gives kind of this lens so that we have access kind of to the whole picture of what's happening regarding that student, and it gives us an opportunity to kind of not just utilize that information and the AI component or machine learning component, but it also involves human intervention along the way. So these things, as they come in, are reviewed. They're looked at from a part of our contract is they're reviewed by a human, by a person in the loop, before those notifications come out to our staff. So when we've done
Unless it's a
some
high threat, they go right to.
unless it's, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah, so, and that's a component that I've seen in some others as well. I think what I'm wondering is, let's say, since we've been using this provider, have we essentially taken a look at our calibration of alerts? Like, how effective is it on not only the alerts that are coming in, have we noticed any issues or concerns that we're thinking, oh, that should have probably been picked up on their device? And is
We
it?
do have a team that kind of looks at all of these that are coming through. So we spent some time, I mean, really, we started trying to get some info into a pilot really starting in January.
And we have really worked a ton of time with our friends in student services to kind of say, all right, what happens when these types of alerts, what do they look like? So we've done a lot of work with them to kind of identify when these come in. And then, yes, to your point, we're able to work with our vendor and the security platform piece of it with some of our engineers that are part of our tech team to kind of tweak what those protocols and what gets pushed to who and when.
Do you ever test it where you have somebody on your team using a student device, put something concerning and see if it'll actually trigger?
We've done that in our pilot programs, but as soon as we started pulling through with real-time data, the dashboard component of it allows you to see kind of all of those, and there's some filtering pieces. There's limited folks that have access to that. So it's really been geared out so that kind of our district level staff have access to those. And then the actual notifications are kind of what drives what's happening from a support standpoint in our schools.
So how deep does it read the data? For example, if I'm a student on a Google document, is it saying, oh, they're on the Google Docs, so they're fine, or is it also monitoring what I'm typing into that document?
I would say that it monitors the entire footprint of that student with what access that they have. It could be a document, it could be a shared document, it could be an Excel sheet, it could be a Canva, it could be a lot.
But what they're putting into it.
Correct.
Well,
Because you know,
and
with
historical.
Yeah.
So I might have something that I put into it 3 years ago,
Sure.
and now I open that document,
Yeah.
and now it is flagging.
Okay.
If that
So every
content from
time
3
you
years
bring
ago
it
was
up,
concerning.
and it's going to, because that I think was a protection. This is a layer I appreciate because, you know, obviously when we first brought things like Google, which is an amazing collaborative tool, and we don't want to shut it down for the small bad actors, but obviously students can, you know, look like they're working diligently, and the parents are like, man, this is the longest paper they've ever written. Look at them go. And really they're just using it as a replacement for their phone that maybe they've been, you know, barred from it at home. But what's more concerning is sometimes images or messages that are being sent from students through those software tools. So I just wanted to make sure that it was picking it up on that level. So every time it opens up, it can now get into that depth. That's pretty amazing. So I find this to be really comprehensive, and so it seems like a smarter use of our money that we're not having a device monitoring system and, as well as a student safety system in two separate components. I think I would love to be able to kind of understand, and maybe I need to make an appointment to take a look at one of these dashboards. I would love to see how frequently is it picking up, or its sensitivity to students that may be putting information in here that indicates self-harm in some way, or that they have you know, some sort of psychological issue. And are we, in our tiered approach, do we have a process by which we're referring parents to, hey, this came in and it maybe isn't necessarily a flag on the student code of conduct, but you may benefit from these services that we might recommend you for, and here's why.
Yeah, within our, we developed a standard operating procedure to more in-depth go over how we would respond to the alerts, and parent notification is a piece of that. And yes, unfortunately, we have picked up self-harm on multiple occasions. In terms of the actual numbers, John, I don't know if you have them offhand or if we can bring that back, but.
I'm sure that's Brandy's office, right?
So I don't have the specific numbers, but we do have data to support the ones where we intervened
And
and
it
what
is
we
getting,
did.
and it's, the whole system's working, that's great. Now that's only on these devices. So even if they're at home and they put that information in the school issued devices, but not necessarily on their individual cell phone. But what if, let's say that a student accesses their student Google account on their cell phone? Does it then pick it up? Okay, interesting. Thank you.
And that's what we wanted to kind of be clear with the families, because we will send this information out to families as well, so that they understand what we are monitoring, and then what it is that we are not monitoring, that they really need to make sure that they are monitoring. Dr. O'Brien referenced that we're working with Lightspeed to even give more access to families around some of the low things that will be considered low for us. Maybe it would be a misuse of our device because they're using it for, they, just like you said, replacement of their chat. But we want we want to give to the families as much information as possible so that they can use that as an opportunity to really guide their child's behavior. But we have added within our procedures triggers to say, if a student is hitting this many lows, then we need to kind of step in and make sure that we're either communicating with the families or we're offering some level of support as well. I think one of the biggest things, one of the main reasons why we went with this versus some of the other resources that have also been used is we wanted to ensure that we could put not just a human in the loop, but our humans in the loop. Because at the end of the day, it's all gonna be the school board and us, right, that are going to be having this conversation. And so we wanted to make sure that what we were using was not just something where in isolation they were deciding what it was, but we didn't have necessarily access to be able to say and calibrate, to your point, to say, no, this should have been, maybe this should not have been.
Right.
And so we have found that this one allows for us to have our humans in the loop and not just, humans
Less
in the loop.
Minority Report becomes a reality, right?
Yes.
My last question is, how do we determine what's a low, high, and imminent level? Have we also seen anything new that's happening that we're like, we don't have anything on our code of conduct that triages that? How are we determining the levels?
So the levels are set up in a way that we're able to give some guidance and direction to Lightspeed on where we think they are, and then the human review. If there's even a question of whether or not we should see it, they send it to us and let us decide if we need to intervene in it. But it really is a partnership with them. And what we found is one of the most important pieces that we utilize with the system is the fact that we just notify parents of what's going on.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just that I'm contacting the parent to say, hey, just want to let you know your student was up at 2 a.m. chatting with another student. Right?
I'm wondering
That's
if we
important.
could create a little parent tutorial of how to read these reports essentially and what they mean, something quick. Just because I know when I first started getting them, I was like, what is this? Like, I thought at first it was the notification
Same.
she's done something wrong, and I was like, and I was like, yeah, Google history. I'm like, what do I? But I also didn't go down further into, well, what's the least, what are the full report beyond the snapshot? And I think that some parents, especially if I decided to put my child on restriction from their phone, I may want to look at that deeper. Or even, how do you navigate it? What does this information mean?
We have a lot of parents that are taking advantage of it. I think this gives us another opportunity to let folks know that it's out there, continues to evolve, and as additional information, the portal continues to evolve. They do work very tightly with many different districts, and we've had a great opportunity to kind of work through a lot of this with the Lightspeed team. So I would say, as far as the Lightspeed portal piece, we have a lot of information that's already out there. We do have links, as Angela brought up, the digital learning handbook, as well as on the website for parent resources. So
and we are going to be pushing this information out. So we've shared this update with our leadership team last week or the week before last. We're sharing it with you today. We're going to share it with families as well as we kickstart the year with some information on how they can go on and get it, get into the portal.
Great. Well, great selection. I feel really confident in this tool, that it's providing both an administrative and also a wellness service for our students.
Yeah, I have a couple questions. So I just wanted a couple clarifications on the tracking. So the parents receive, any alert that we get, the parents get, correct, no? Do the parents get the
So,
information?
so if it's a high or an imminent risk, yes, we are vetting those through the schools, and then if it's found to be credible, then we reach out to the parents immediately and work with them to
Okay, so
resolve it.
the parents only receive these notifications if we route them to them.
Unless they're using the digital, the parent portal.
That's what I mean.
To see
Through,
what.
through the portal.
Or a
Through the-
weekly email.
But through the portal, they can see all the alerts that we get, correct? No?
They can see the activity of their child.
Okay.
Any of the alerts that are imminent or are high, that are credible, right? Because it may be something in here that it flags, that you use the term that it will flag, but when we look at it in context, this term is appropriate to be used in whatever it is that you are writing about. So I'm going to use the term gun, for instance, right? If you're writing an article appropriately assigned by your teacher and you use a term, it may flag that. But the human is going to look and say, this is not a threat, this is an appropriate use of that, so parents would not be notified anything of that. But if you were to say something that it would be deemed inappropriate in this document, then that would be flagged, and then we would notify the families around that.
So why wouldn't we allow the parents to also see that data firsthand? Why would we want to filter it and decide whether or not that's information that the parent needs to have?
Much of this is also multiple students. So I might get an alert because I own a document that someone else that it was shared with typed something concerning on. And so it's not going to share out the context of that whole alert with, a family member. I think that a big part of the review is around the context. You bring up a good question on what they can see. I'm not entirely sure in the parent portal what additional pieces they can see. So we can look at that and better
Well,
answer that question.
Here's where I'm coming from with this here, is that if there's information available to a parent that we're collecting through the AI monitoring, that they could make that intervention before we do. Why would we potentially hold back that information from the parent and have us determine whether or not, now we may have our protocols whether we're gonna contact the parent about it, but why would we suppress that access to that data, or if they wanted to go into that portal and see?
We would not be holding on to it. We would need to work with Lightspeed to say, what are all the things that are available to families to be able to see? Because I agree, if it comes, but what we don't want to have happen is alert fatigue, where families are getting just alerts to things and they look and every time it's like, oh, it's just that, it's nothing, right? And we're doing the same thing for our schools. So for our schools, we're not just flooding them with all of these alerts. At the district office, we're looking at it so that when we send it to the school knows this is something that I actually need to look at. Because if not, you will receive alert fatigue because there's always something that's going that we're having to look into. And so we are not, we can definitely take back to the, and we can bring back to this board, what does the parent portal look like? How in-depth can they get the notifications coming to them? But I think some of that is because you gotta get that human in the loop to make sure that you're not just sending out alerts for things that don't really require an alert.
Well, it could be also, I have another thing to add. Alerts and logging are two separate things, I guess. So if we look at it from two different perspectives, like an alert is like, ooh, we got something here that potentially is a problem, right? But then if a parent wanted to log in and see, what's happening in real time, that data might mean something different to them. So Again, I don't know what this looks like on the other end. I'm only trying to just take it from what you've shared with me today. My point here is just the maximum transparency for the parent. I never would want, if we have data that could help a parent make early intervention based on their determination, that could guide them to something, I don't want to hold that back from them. But obviously, we need to have certain protocols to say, when do we, as a school district, intervene or alert the parent with a human intervention? So that's kind of the direction where I'm going with that, and you can come back to me and tell me where we're at with that. So,
I
Yeah,
think
we
I can
definitely-
provide some context to that, though, in terms of, you know, with having high school students, like, my one daughter had to do a presentation on fetal development and the birthing process. So if I were alerted every time that intercourse or sex was brought up, I probably would have, when she's doing her report, would have had like 20 alerts in one day. Or my youngest daughter taking world civics in high school, they did a whole segment on, I think it was Vikings, raping and pillaging, right? They're reading this in their articles in their textbook, it's history. I would get 15 notifications that day. I can get the log of what she's visited. I have access to the curriculum, but an alert, to your point, alert meaning there's something concerning and abnormal here versus access to a log, which we are providing on, I think they get it every week.
Every week.
Yeah.
Yes.
So they do have access to those logs. That's what I was getting at.
Of their student activity.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, so websites,
Yeah,
basically it
I
searches
get
how
that,
long.
but ultimately, I think you know where I'm going with this. I just want to make sure that, in the example that Ms. Ruddy said, again, that may mean something different to a parent, right? So maybe, we could get alert fatigue, but maybe seeing some of what's happening there, because it's different family dynamics, there could be something that parent needs to intervene on,
Yes.
based on that information.
And that's what we mean when we say we're working with Lightspeed to say, as much as we can give to parents to be able to log in and see, we want them to be able to have that so that they can parent.
And
Thank you.
any more from your side? All right. So yes, I'm glad that we had this presentation because, all of us have kids and I received those emails. So as a parent, you can log into the portal. So any parent watching, I think this is a great workshop because you're gonna see what those emails were meaning if you're signed up for them. And so I'd recommend just any parent just log in and you can see the whole dashboard. Just play around, you're not gonna break it. So thank you for bringing that up. And I did look up Gaggle, so they come to a lot of the conferences and they're high competitors with Lightspeed. So I came up with like a comparison. But what Lightspeed does, they really do act a lot more with the AI technology and the human component. Gaggle, I think the main difference was they have the therapy, the online virtual, but I'm not sure if that's something that we were looking into. I know this was more like security, and I did see a lot of districts use the therapy portion separately and then Lightspeed for those components. You mentioned someone said weapon detection. So Gaggle doesn't do a lot of that, and like weapon detection and a lot of the imaging. So there is a big difference. I think just the main thing was the therapy aspect, but I know that's another topic for another day. But
And we really, if one of the alerts would lead for us to respond in that way, using our mental health counselors or social workers, we would just deploy that with our team.
That's what I'm thinking. The main difference, it's districts that do not have the resources available for the therapy sessions, but you feel we have,
We have and we do.
And
So
I know,
in this pilot, we've referred several students for ongoing mental health services.
because I know every time I
we
hear
identify-
about an issue, like any of us, if we hear about a family, a neighbor, a student, even if we don't know them or if we do, the second you guys know, I know you're on
Yes,
it.
we're right.
So I don't feel like Gaggle, I don't think from my perspective, we don't necessarily need that additional component. So that's to me what the main difference was with Gaggle and Lightspeed. This was great because there is a dashboard, so parents, all you need to do, log in. If you don't know how, put a ticket in, they'll call you, and you can see what your child is doing. But thank you. That's all I had.
Thanks, y'all. I think we'll take 5 minutes.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thanks, Jen.
Okay. All right, we'll go ahead with 10.01, our board policy update with Mr. Sanfilippo.
Good afternoon, Board. Superintendent Moore. Before you, I have 6 policies that we're requesting advertisement on. Of these 6 policies, I believe 3 of them are coming back once again after some revisions from suggestions from the board from the previous meetings. To start with, we can just start with the first few, or if you have any suggestions, you want to go through where your suggestions are.
Can I go in order?
We go in order, 6325. This is the procurement of federal grant funds. It was just changed with statute change for grants. It was just a minor change to the amount that was on there. And a spelling correction.
All right.
Okay, next one we have on here is 6608. This was a new policy from Neola that we brought before you, and there was some questions about non-custodial funds. And after reviewing statute and questions from Neola, that was a recommendation. It wasn't statutory, so with the board's suggestion last time, we removed that language for the non-custodial funds and left in the other information on here.
I have,
And Ms. Ruddy had a
so,
question.
yeah, so after spending some time to review this a little bit further, and kind of cross-referencing to some of our other policies, one of the items, so in one of these updated policies, we're saying, if you're an SSO, then the funds you raise are non-custodial. However, in this policy, we're essentially saying that we want to have approval rights and essentially some fiscal oversight, which contradicts some of that non-custodial fund language to me and puts us at greater risk of holding the liability should something be awry. So one of the recommendations was to essentially embed in there maybe more of the superintendent has the right to review or whatever. I think I emailed it to, did I send it to you,
I
Ms.
have it.
Moore? Okay. So that's number one. The second is with regard to the limited liability coverage for SSOs. We have another school board policy that says if you want to use our facilities, you fill out a use of facility form, and that based upon that event, it's either approved or they may approve with a contingency saying, we need you to have an event-specific insurance on this event for whatever it may be. But the vast majority of events that PTOs are going to put on are things like dances and stuff that would not be outside that regular use. And when I looked at some of the use of facilities, for example, one is for some of the swimming clubs. I can't imagine a PTO use would have more risk than having a swim club participate. So in one end, we're saying you have to have liability insurance, but another policy is saying that you don't need it if you fill out a use of facilities. So if we have both in play, are we going to say to PTOs, well, to avoid having to get your own, you can fill out a use of facilities, or we are saying just because you're an entity, a PTO or any entity, because there are other entities using using the use of facilities, it just doesn't seem to go together. And if we're going to, if the Neola policies are going to require us to change our use of facility language, should that come before us requiring the PTOs to carry liability insurance?
So if I could first address the district oversight, which is the question you have with the superintendent and reports for non-custodial and custodial funds on 6320, what is this one? Let me check. This is 6608. The language in here says all reports shall be available, and the only place where reports are required are on custodial funds. There's no reports required on non-custodial funds. So that's kind of where that language comes from.
Okay, just one, bear with me a second.
Yeah, you got it.
Because, okay, so 6608,
District
on the
oversight.
bottom it says district oversight, but that comes below the differentiation between student organized fundraising, parent group, non-custodial funds, so it makes it seem
Yeah.
like it should be applied to both.
I can
And
hear-
so I feel like if we don't change the language that, we should say district oversight. But I feel like the point of that, because we do require, whether, even if it is non-custodial, we require them to provide reporting of those fundraisers to us. So we, in essence, we are asking for at least a review of both kinds, but approval of one.
And you suggested reports shall be made available for review by superintendent or designee. Such review shall not constitute district custody, management, or approval of the SSO's independently managed funds.
Either that, or we separate it and say, well, hey, the superintendent needs to review, approve for custodial, but needs to review non-custodial. But it's just something that I'm thinking.
Anybody,
Any others?
would you like for it to be separated, or just use the language? If you'll read the language again that Ms. Ruddy is recommending.
Reports shall be made available for review by the superintendent or designee. Such review shall not constitute district custody, management, or approval of an SSO's independently managed funds.
Where are you reading that?
I'm reading that because it was just an email to me.
Oh, okay, sorry, okay.
It was a suggestion, alter the language.
So, Ms. Reddy, are you saying, so for letter A, student organized fundraising, so custodial funds, so in student organization, that's organizing and fundraising compared to the PTO for B or any type of non-custodial funds? Is that what you're, I just want to make sure I'm understanding your question.
Okay.
I guess I'm confused
sorry,
on.
I didn't clarify enough. So first, when I look at the structure of this policy, each header, right, is listed here, accounting and compliance requirements, then it's broken into student organized and non-custodial. So custodial and non-custodial. Then there's a segment at the bottom that says district oversight, which could lead one to assume that that district oversight should apply to both the custodial funds category and the non-custodial fund category above. However, in the other policies and within this policy, there's indication that what we're saying is when it's a non-custodial fund, we don't have any essentially financial, what's the word? Liability, oversight. We're supposed to get their reporting just to make sure they're ethical, but they're not essentially another arm or branch of our central offices, let's say. However, custodial funds are, like the Ed Foundation. So with the Ed Foundation, we want more stringent oversight and approval, whereas non-custodial funds, by the previous definition in the other parts of the policies, we shouldn't. But that district oversight clause states that the superintendent should review, approve, and implement financial controls. That should only apply to custodial funds and not non-custodial funds.
Yes, so because, for example, a PTO, non-custodial fund, is their own organization, a booster is their own organization, so if they want to spend their money on pizza or a water slide, this is stating that you could say, no, you cannot use that money for pizza. Is that what you're saying? So is that, I think that's what,
Ms.
now I
Ruddy
see
is
what you mean.
recommending is we put language in both to say, what is
Yeah.
the superintendent's responsibility in the custodial, what's the superintendent's responsibility in non-custodial? Or we change that language under district oversight to encompass what's required for both, but just in one area, is what her recommendation is.
Can you read that again, what the verbiage is?
Yes. Reports shall be made available for review by the superintendent or designee. Such review shall not constitute district custody, management, or approval of an SSO's independently managed funds.
Yes, so that was emailed to you? Is
Yes,
that, okay.
I have that.
I mean, obviously, for a maternity perspective, but I can see where that would make sense, but you're about to say something, I think.
So, thank you. So Florida statute 1001-453, it gives a little bit of oversight on that, and I think the language that Ms. Ruddy suggests,
Mhm.
you know, is in line with that, the intent of that,
Yeah.
of that language. You know, that basically we're to provide that oversight without too much interference and control, you know?
Yes.
So,
So I think, I agree.
The proposed language is a good idea.
So it's just as to simplify it, make it clear.
Separating it, yeah.
I mean, I don't see any problem with that.
That way, if there's any kind of question or
Right.
anything.
Yeah,
it's
and there
very
will
clearly
be, and
stated
that's
in
why I
policy.
think this
Right.
all came up. However, Ms. Reddy, were you done? I wanted to add on to this.
For
Oh,
this
wait.
policy,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm done, but
Okay.
there was another policy
Yeah.
that I had
Okay.
essentially the concern about the liability insurance. But if you want to
Yeah.
talk about this policy, we can stay on this.
Yes, if you don't mind.
No, please.
So, one, thank you. I really appreciate this update of the striking out. I actually, when we were at the conference, I sat down with Neola because they're there, and the first thing I said was, you know, can you please explain to me this policy that you created that's, you know, just, which, and I understand they're just trying to, you know, make updates, and they had a lot of complaints and comments from individuals about that. So, thank you. I met with several parent group organizations, and I think they will all be thrilled to see this. So I appreciate this, and then I do agree with that addition of what Ms. Reddy was just stating. But for this policy, I think this is a win for our student organizations.
And Attorney Delaney also just weigh in, I just wanted your opinion also.
Sure, it does sound like this is in line with the statute. I don't see anything that's like a misrepresentation of law. I think it does provide some clarity. There's always a conversation that takes place with Neola, and they have multiple sets of attorneys who are working to craft this language in the first place. But I think it's a good idea for any kind of recommended change to go back to them. It may just be this situation where like the rising tide lifts all the ships. You know, sometimes a good idea like this can come from the district level, and then they can implement that across all districts, and then you've got standard language that half the counties in the state are kind of operating under, and that can make it easier to deal with vendors or deal with other groups, because it's harder for them to say, well, in this county, they don't do it that way. So if there's a good idea that comes up from the district level, I think it's a good idea to tell Neola about it. If they have a different perspective or saying, we thought about your idea or your suggested change, we didn't do that for this other reason that's not coming up in this conversation, I also think it's a good idea to check in.
Yeah, I would just add that so long as it doesn't affect our warranties with their policies, then I'm okay with the clarification of the language.
Can we like just chat about that as a board for a minute? Because one of the main items we do as a board is set policy. So if we're going to say that we actually require more than a certain amount of evidence, preponderance of doubt of a policy in order to change it because we're concerned that it's not going to be on the automation radar for Neola, then why are we here, right? Because then essentially we're saying, unless it's really bothering me, I'm not going to change it. And we're letting one organization that feeds this into all the districts dictate the policies of our school district, and then we're relinquishing more and more local control, and our policies are not bespoke to our needs. I feel like we've leaned that way since going to Neola, and I just would caution us to say, let's just remember, number one is setting policies. That is our lane. That it shouldn't require an overabundance of error in order to change or modify, because we have a process in place for our staff to be able to track and adjust or bring to us these changes. So let's say this policy changes, it's going to be brought to us again, and we're going to see, hey, this was our custom language to this section. It shouldn't require us to have more evidence to change something that Neola brings to us.
I'd like to respond to that. So, the changes that we're making here don't change the outcome of the policy. Still, both versions accomplish the same thing. So, what I'm saying is that if we're doing this for clarification for the person reading the policy, and it makes it easier for them to understand, okay, I'm okay with that. But if that opens us up to having to defend this policy ourselves, then why would we do that when the policy as written accomplishes the same thing as the version that we're proposing to change? That is where I'm coming from. We're paying Neola for a service for that reason, and to also keep us up to date, make sure we never get behind like the district had for many years on keeping their policies updated. I don't think that this makes us derelict in our duty by saying we're going to defer to the company that we're paying to defend our policies in the event we're challenged on them, if they both accomplish the same thing. Now, on the other hand, I do agree with you, Ms. Ruddy, that if we adamantly disagree as a board with the language that Neola has put forward and does not, work for the direction that this board wants, then yes, we can use our authority to do that. But we as a board have to say, are we ready to defend this on our own with our legal counsel, right? Because it's that important. So that's what I'm just saying. You got to weigh both sides. There's not right or wrong in this particular instance, but that's the reason why I made those comments. It's not to say, hey, let's just take the easy way out.
All right, no, I mean, I agree with both of you, but let's stay on track here.
All right.
I'll make those changes.
And we will push it back for their feedback, and we'll come back to you.
Thank you. That one was good.
No, Ms. Reddy's other question.
So the other one was on a different policy. Are we done with this policy and everybody's good with that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just say the number.
Yeah, the next one was the limited liability requirement, which was number,
Is that one?
is it 9215?
SSOs.
That they have to carry insurance, PTOs have to carry insurance. It's taking a while to load.
Limited.
So essentially, it said that PTOs have to carry their own liability, limited liability insurance up to, of $1 million. So I think the last meeting, one of the questions I had was, what would this cost burden be on the PTOs? Typically, a PTO, its funds run almost dry every year, right? Essentially acting as a nonprofit to give those funds during the school year. But beyond that, I think with this particular policy, what I'm concerned about is we have a separate policy that allows individuals or groups to use facilities by completing a use of facility form and not requiring liability insurance, or if deemed necessary by those overseeing the risk, an event-specific liability insurance, which is very rare. So to me, we have one policy that says you fill out the use of facility form, don't need liability insurance, but now we have a separate policy stating if you're an SSO, you need liability insurance. So what I don't know is if policy 7215 has any legislation that's going to cause it to be changed, which I couldn't find any, but again, I'm not the lawyer, I'm not getting messages from Neola unless they come through you, so it seems that we can't live in both worlds there. So why can't we just allow PTOs to follow the already established policy of completing a use of facility form when they want to use our facilities? And that goes akin to one of our last statements at the last workshop, not requiring that liability insurance unless they were to hold events off school grounds involving our students and then incurring potentially more risk for us through our association.
I just have a question in regards to what you're bringing up here in comparison. You're saying that for use of facilities, you're claiming that you don't need to have insurance if you use your, because if that's what I'm understanding, I mean, it says right on our use of facilities that you must it says all clients renting Flagler School's facilities must supply insurance and follow the policies and procedures, and they do give an option to purchase insurance through the Facilitron app, from my understanding. So I just want to make sure I'm understanding you correctly in the comparison.
So part A of that is they're allowed to purchase event-specific insurance, not just carry a liability insurance of $1 million over and above. But on the other end of that, that it's my understanding, and I'm seeking advice from the superintendent's staff and from Mr. Smith, that when they complete that use of facilities, we don't require that insurance all of the time.
They either have to have it or they purchase it through Facilitron.
And so what is the cost, let's say, so for example, when we, I believe, the Belterre Swim and Racket Club, right? People are applying for use of facilities to use those swim lanes. When they do that, what is the cost of the insurance through Facilitron?
I do not know the cost through Facilitron, but it's minimum. It's not.
So could they do something like that and have per event insurance, which may be lower than carrying liability insurance of $1 million? I don't know.
I don't know that that will be cheaper than to just carry it, because
it would depend on how many events they have.
If they're gonna have, yes, exactly. So we will give them the opportunity to do that through the Facilitron, but from the research that I have done on this, that the cost is not, it's not a lot to be able to cover that cost through and be insured for it. And many of our
$1 million?
Yes.
Okay,
and many
so
of our,
we don't know what that would be right now.
I do not have the exact numbers. I just did it for several different companies. I do not have the exact numbers.
Because I think that's that's the information I would need in order to decide the final wording of this policy. Because either, like, you could have a PTO that's going to decide, you know what, we're going to move more towards crowdfunding and not have events then, because there's, right, the policies seem beneficial to crowdfunding. Whereas if they're going to be charged a $1 million liability insurance, that may be outside their budget, or they'll say, you know what, we can't afford a whole year's worth of liability coverage, it's not worth it, and we're just gonna do one event per year, and so we're gonna pay for that through Facilitron. I think in order to make a decision about how to best continue to support PTOs without making it overly burdensome, we'd have, and make a decision on this policy, we need to see the cost comparison between those two.
But the insurance is a private marketplace, so I mean, those prices are going to be, they were less 5 years ago, they'll be more 10 years from now. I mean, it's a free market of insurance, so the policy based on today's rates, in my opinion anyways, that doesn't really have a reflection of whether or not. The question would be, do we require it or do we not? If we don't require it, then we are exposed.
All prices change, so.
Yeah, but I mean, if we're.
Because I'm trying to make the easiest, most facilitated path to continue a partnership with the PTO. What is going to protect us, but yet be most cost conscious? And is it per event coverage that a PTO would rather focus on? Or is it, you know what, they could hold 2 events and it's the same price as the liability for a year, so let's put in the $1 million liability coverage?
Miss Ruddy, I may have, so I did quite a bit of research on this, and so this, as a board, you know, maybe this might help or it might not, but, so surrounding districts that we have, surprisingly, so, and it surprised me, but they do have the required insurance for PTOs, or PTAs, so for those that don't know, they're the same thing, but PTA is like a national, and you pay like a fee. So they do require it. Most of them were $1 million. St. John's, they have the option where you can click a box, you don't have it and you don't want it and you assume the risk. However, in reality, if anything happens, the school is at fault anyway, so that's where I'm like, it's.
But that's what I'm saying, so they're going through Facilitron and they're not requiring it.
However, St. John's was the only one. Many other counties, they do require it, and then so PTO and PTA and booster as well. So there is a very discounted rate insurance policy for specifically PTO, PTA, and then booster has their own. So it's a different organization. Very, very affordable, but in relation to events. So I'll use Belterre, they're my liaison. I've been there now a decade with children, and they have, I wanna say maybe 7 or 8 dances a year, a lot. And not every campus does that, but that's their fundraising thing. So if you did a Facilitron, and I'm not sure of the price for plant services, but it may actually cost more than purchasing this. But actually some of our PTOs have, which I wasn't aware, but they have insurance already. So, but not all of them, yes. But some do. And from my understanding, years and years and years ago, the one that, and maybe you have more information.
And I will tell you, this is already currently in your policy.
Yes.
Like, it is already currently required that the PTOs, all SSOs, should have their own insurance.
And so what we're doing in this policy is requiring evidence of it before an event?
No, remember, the 9211 was one policy that had DSOs and SSOs in the same one. This one is separating them out. We're not changing anything other than separating the DSOs from the SSOs. So the requirement for insurance is not something that is new. It is something that is already required as a part of your board policy.
So then what is, okay, so one thing, I would like to look at policy 7215, I think. And I don't understand, Mr. Sanfilippo, but when I go to the policies, it seems like I can only see the ones that are in edits now. Whenever I try to look at the old ones, I have to go to like the public website. I don't know. I'll ask you afterwards. But look, can we just bring up 7215 maybe for everybody to look at, and let's just double check that. So I felt like there was wording in that allowed insurance to be optional.
Excuse me, was that the use of facility one?
Yes.
I think it's 7510.
Oh, sorry, 7510.
Wait, the one.
So this is our current policy, this is not one we're discussing.
This one, and this is not a.
Because 9215 is the separation brand new.
Right.
And this is good that we're
comparing it
doing
to
this
an
because
existing one.
if something is, not matching, so.
So I think the plan is to, once the 9,000s are aligned, particularly with regard to these 2 policies, to take a look at the 7,000s and bring that into alignment with what the board ultimately decides we're gonna do with the 9,000s. Right now, Ms. Ruddy made a good point that there's some contradictory language between the 2, but once we shore up these 2 policies that are before you today, I think the plan is to bring the 7,000.
Well, and that's what I have been researching and found, that there are differences happening and we want it all to be under the same policy. And there is a right way to do it, but we just have to be, what one campus is doing, the other campus should be doing as well.
Mr. Sanfilippo, I'm sorry, what was that policy number that the use of facilities is under again?
7510.
7510, okay, there it is. Okay, yes, so
But
this
the
is what I was looking at.
The limits would be different.
Yes.
Too, so we'd have to, there's language beyond what just Ms. Ruddy is pointing out, that you would bring it to alignment once the board decides whether this is the direction that we want to go with the 9,000.
So this will just set the precedence for the other policies, and it will just fold over.
Yeah, to present.
Are you able to
multiple-
make that a little bit larger? I didn't pull it up on here, but. is it-
To present multiple changes to multiple policies that would be put forward beyond my ability to consider the different avenues, since they lean on each other.
So if I may add hopefully some context to, and there may be some confusion on if there's an organization going through the school or if they're actually separate. Because if they're going through the school, then they would not have their own insurance because technically they would be a school function. Therefore, they would fall under the school district. If they are outside, then they have to have their insurance. The Facilitron insurance was just us putting that up there, that where if they didn't, they could go that route, or they can go to any agency that they would want to get that insurance. But regardless, when they put in the use of facilities, that is part of the approval process. They have to show us that they have that coverage and it meets what it says that we are
But it
requesting.
says here the limits of at least 100,000 for any one person, 300,000 for more than one occurrence. That's different from $1 million. And then in the other section, it says fee and insurance waivers. School-based or direct support organizations may be permitted to use facilities without providing liability insurance.
I think that's what he was saying, they need to, because of
Right,
that.
so if we approve this one policy separate from this other policy, that doesn't seem like it.
So like individuals who go through, the foundation and that are, the foundation is scheduling, something within on our organization, on our campus. The foundation is scheduling an event to use one of our campuses. They are considered a part of us and do not have to provide the proof that Mr. Bush is talking about to move forward.
Right, because
for the
they're DSO, right.
The foundation, but anyone else would not be. Now, say the school the school is hosting an event and PTO is gonna participate. The school would be putting that in, would not need to show anything, they are part of us. PTO can participate just like whomever else is going to participate. But
Okay.
any organization that is going to use our facility, they are the main user of our facility, they are going to have to provide.
So you're
insurance.
saying, okay, let's say school dances. Some
Yes.
schools have them for no referral dances, right?
Yes.
Or turn it around dances.
Yes.
Some of them, they're PTO only. So if they're during the day.
Not
we
even during the
count-
day, anytime. If it's the school that's doing it,
And what's the difference between making it clear that the school is running the dance, even if it's after school hours, versus a PTO?
For us, the school would be the ones submitting the use of facility request.
So it's only who's submitting it. Now, could a school say, oh, we're gonna have this dance submitted, but the PTO is gonna be the vendor of the pizza and they can keep
the school, we don't get, if the
That-
school is hosting it, we don't get into who's going to get the monies from the pizza sale. We don't get into that.
So hosting versus who's making from the money from it are
So-
completely two different things?
If the school is hosting it, it
But
is.
it read, I thought.
Miss Ruddy, I
Mr.
can help
Smith,
that.
The other policy read like, if you are raising funds through an event, to me, then they weren't distinguishing whether you're hosting it, they're distinguishing if you're earning the money from the event, then you're the one with the liability insurance. So what I'm just trying to be careful of is to say, sure, that would be that loophole, a lot of people would assume that's right, but it doesn't seem right to me, because if this policy, the way I'm interpreting is saying, if I am participating in an activity that raises funds, I must have the insurance, regardless of who filled out the use of facilities form.
So if a school is hosting an event, it doesn't matter what event it is, it doesn't matter any of that. If the school is hosting any of these other individuals that are coming in to be a part of it, they are volunteers.
So.
They are over
Even
here.
if they're selling something and making money from it.
They are volunteers over there when it comes to use of facilities.
So Ms. Moore, maybe you can answer this then, because now I have this opens up some more questions. So I'll just use my liaison school. So when they set up their dances, each dance, they may have 7. Each dance is a different grade level that's hosting it. So first
That is
grade,
the
second
school.
grade. And then the PTO, they coordinate. They're helping with collecting the money because
They are
they have,
volunteering.
so then they're really just volunteers under a PTO name. So that's where I guess it's getting, like,
I mean, their title changes, they're no longer the PTO, now they're just volunteers.
And I think
They-
we have to-
They've changed in their role.
but the PTO is promoting it, so that's where.
But I think we have to keep some like categories. We have
Yeah.
use of facilities and what is required for use of facilities. We have also policies and guidelines for raising of funds that identify what do you need in order to fundraise, crowdfund, all of those things. So sometimes those things merge and you have more than one policy that is merging on top of each other. So there are times when an SSO is going to be doing something with use of facility, and they are going to be required to provide proof of insurance. They're also going to be required to maintain the policies of, you know, anything related to the fundraising and all of that. But, you know, going back to like the original part of this, the insurance, the requirement to have have insurance for our SSOs is already a part of your policy. That is not something new that we are bringing forward. To Ms. Ruddy's earlier point, this is your policy. You guys can come up with whatever you want it to be, as long as it is in alignment with something that your attorney feels like is legal that we can do. So we can, I say that to say, we can strike it, but this is not new.
Well, I have a question with that, so making it our own policy, so it's set at $1 million, so aren't we as a district capped at $250,000 with, if there's a claim or something? So my question is, why would it be $1 million? Is that?
Because they're not the district. And there are some things that are afforded to us that is not afforded to the general public and private organizations.
But even with the understanding that if something were to happen, a PTO would not have that.
They would have their insurance.
The
that
insurance
covers
would cover
them.
the 1 million?
Yes.
Okay, and then if it was more than that, if, you know, I'm just thinking of like what if, you know, and then the risk, and, because I did see several districts have it, so for me, and then, you know, I know we went back and forth, so thank you for that. You know, so I guess you just answered my question,
All
so.
right, I want to bring this back to the current policies we have listed, so is there any other?
Yeah, I just would
about
like
this?
maybe clarification from Mr. Delaney or Mr. Smith, because in the limitation of liability, it says the superintendent shall require each SSO's fundraising activities to comply, sorry, I'm reading the wrong part. I just want to be sure when the liability insurance is required, when it's hosting versus raising money, because how do you differentiate? To me, a volunteer doesn't raise money for you or for their own organization. So I want to be super clear with that. Which policy was the one with the liability insurance in it again? I keep opening all of them.
9215.
Okay, 1 second, 9215, and which paragraph? It's,
Limited liability.
From my understanding,
Limitation
it's
of
if you're,
liability.
Page 30.
okay, yeah, that I was reading, but I felt like it didn't get to it. Where's the dollar amount? Okay, there it is. So require each SSO's fundraising activities to comply with the applicable board policies, not limited to approved fundraisers that involve the sale to students, food, beverages, campus 30 minutes, da-da-da. SSO, purchase liability to cover something and protect this from damage resulting in any omission of interest. So do you take this, Mr. Smith, that it can be separate from hosting versus selling something at a booth to make money, even if the money is going to your PTO account?
I think the intent is if there's the use of the facilities, and so.
Is this general liability that we're talking about here? Like somebody gets hurt? Or does it have something to do, so the money part of it is separate, because that's a fiduciary thing, and so we're talking about two different things here. It's fundraising and accounting, and somebody coming on our property, getting injured and suing us for negligence or whatever it might be. So I mean, we're talking about liability, and from my understanding, because we're a government organization, we have certain sovereign immunities that the private sector don't have.
Yes.
And so therefore, the limits are a little different, but the private, those that are outside of us, they're just like any other entity, and they're exposed to the full limits of the law. And so therefore, we ask for $1 million because that oftentimes can settle many of the claims that arise by the majority of things that have happened with there. So I mean, that's my understanding of the differences between these two things.
But it's intertwined. The placement of the limited liability is in the same policy as the fundraising requirements or parameters for a PTO. So, you know, they're talking about, what they're actually saying is they don't care if you as a PTO have any liability insurance, but if you're gonna come on our property and you're going to sell stuff, then you have to have it. And to me, that means beyond the use of facility, that means if you're selling items, and that's where I wanna be clear, if it's our intent to say, if the PTO is the host of, listed on the use of facilities, then you need to have the insurance. I feel that's the disclaimer we need to make clear on how to apply this. Otherwise, I feel anybody could fight that.
But isn't that how it is now? I mean,
it's not in this policy now.
So.
What's the trigger? Are we looking for, from a legal perspective, let's get the attorneys involved here. What is the trigger here? There's gotta be something that triggers, this is an activity that triggers something, that this is a school.
It's not an activity. If they are an SSO with us,
right,
it does not matter if they are a registered SSO for fill in the blank school, Flagler schools, they will have this policy of $1 million.
Right.
Then whatever event that they have, if they're going to host an event on our campus, they will then provide that information to us before we would allow for them to use the facilities.
That's a change, though. So that's a change. What you just said was that you require them to have $1 million, no matter if they're raising funds or not, or participating or filling out use of facilities. Where we were talking before was that, well, if Belterre filled out the use of facilities, then the PTO could come sell stuff and not require the use of facilities or the coverage. So those are two completely opposite things. So if you have to have insurance the minute you form the PTO, maybe we'd have to say, well, you'd have to have it when you raise a certain X amount of funds. How do you raise funds? How do you have liability? This is a chicken and the egg situation. How do you raise funds to afford the liability insurance if you're not allowed to have fundraisers until you have the liability insurance?
But it's my understanding the activity of raising funds is irrelevant from what I understand to the liability insurance. You could be a PTO and not raise one dime, but still be required to have insurance if you're using the facilities.
PTOs don't earn any money unless they raise
I just
money.
want to remind you all, listen to me, we have a closed door session in an hour, and we still have policies to go through.
I'm wondering if we need to move policies earlier in our agenda, because this is now the second time back to back where we're trying to really get under something and hash it out. I think we've had some issues before where.
Are you bringing your questions to the district staff beforehand? Because we've had a few
Yes.
weeks to do that.
We had this in a workshop previously. I emailed them, and that's why at the previous workshop I asked for us to get on some language we would like to provide the district so that we could be in agreement today. So what I'm hearing now, I heard I've heard 4 different variations, and what I'm trying to say is I would like to put in here, and if you guys would agree, or if we could get sign off from the attorneys, if we say, if you, the PTO, are filling out and hosting and are listed as the host on the use of facility, then you need to have the $1 million liability. But then that means if Belterre runs the event and the PTO has a booth and they're not the host, they can have they can sell something without the liability. Are we okay with that? That's what we're trying to define here.
I just,
Mr. Smith.
You have your attorney with us.
Real quick. Policy 9215 on page 3, limitation of liability. There is a requirement to operate as an SSO that they will indemnify the district. They will take over the responsibility if the district is sued. And they have $1 million insurance policy to back up that promise to do that. So in order to exist as an SSO, you have to have that $1 million policy in place. My understanding, when you try to put these different circumstances together, if someone goes to do a use of facilities agreement, we don't need to get an additional policy of insurance for them, because we already know they have $1 million policy in place, or they wouldn't be an approved SSO with the district.
So we're saying the minute you become a PTO, you need to have this $1 million limited liability, and you cannot raise funds until you have it.
That's what the board's policies say.
That's what
currently
the
say.
Mr. Smith?
Yeah, so the phrase use of facilities is only in one of the policies. It's gotta be in, we have to have unified language. I think some of the confusion here is just from the lack of unification of language. One of them talks about all acts or omissions, and the other one talks about use of facilities. We just need to align that, those two things, so that there's less of a thing, but that doesn't change the fact that just to be any SSO affiliated with us, you have to have the $1 million blanket coverage.
Right. So my recommendation would be to either A, wait until we can work on this 9,000, 7,000 policy together, right? Or the way I would vote to approve this is if there was a clause that stated, you know, you need to ensure you have the liability before you even, at the simultaneously signing of your PTO, so make it super clear.
And
I just don't know why we're struggling on this issue. It's already our policy. Everything here is, nothing is changing except the spirit of this conversation started out with the mere fact that they were just separating the direct support and the other. So all this other, I really am struggling to understand why what are we trying to accomplish here? The bottom line is that the outside support is going to have $1 million. They've always had to have it, and they will continue to have it. The fact that their fundraising is not a factor in whether or not they have that insurance. That's been the conversation here continually back and forth. And I don't know, I still don't understand what we're trying to solve by making these modifications that you're bringing forward.
I'm trying to solve that 9215 and 7250 are within alignment with each other, that they cannot poke holes or be misinterpreted, which we just came up with 4 different ways. So, Board Chair, I move that we wait on this particular policy so that they could be written together and be complementary.
Is that all right?
And I just wanted to add one thing.
But what is the benefit of doing that? What I mean,
So they make sense together.
But once we pass the one on 9215, or then that will set the precedence.
What's the benefit of passing this halfway?
It's not halfway.
But it is.
Once
If there's
we
another
set
policy that's
9215, it's gonna set precedence and will be applied to the other policies.
7510 will be edited accordingly and then brought before the board.
And so what I'm saying is, to me, there's a cause effect here that I feel we should work on in tandem with each other.
But what
Not
are the
separate.
different, what's gonna be different if they're gonna
What's
be the
better
same?
without doing it?
Mr. Ramirez, do you have any concern?
Yeah, so I wanted to, I agree, like, because even Mr. Smith is saying that it's not matching, but, okay, so, and also what I would like to wonder if we need to put, and this is more of an attorney question, so back to when there's an event at a campus, PTO's always, they're the volunteer part, they're helping. But if let's say something does happen, do we need to have something, paperwork that states who is the host, just even though, let's say PTO has their insurance, $1 million liability, they're ready to go in case there's an accident, hopefully not. They're not hosting the event, but they're always helping, the funds are going, but officially the school filled out your form, it's under them, but they're there. And something happens, but the PTO is always sponsoring it, meaning they're behind it, like their logo, names, and all that.
But that's the thing. If the PTO is sponsoring it, it's this PTO's event, and the
It's
PTO
always going to
is already.
say PTO though. That's what I'm getting
That's
at.
what I'm saying.
So
In order to be a PTO here in Flagler County, our PTOs need to have $1 million insurance unless you as a board change that. For someone to use our facility that is not us, they must provide proof of their insurance.
Yes.
And we can do it both at the same time, we can do all of those things, but that language is the same, and that language is not going to change unless you as a board change it and say, you don't want your PTO to have a liability insurance up to $1 million, or you want them to only have event-specific liability, or any of those things. Nothing else within these policies will change, because this is the language that is already here unless you change it.
Attorney Delaney.
Don't disagree with anything the superintendent just explained. I would also caution the board against not putting too much emphasis on who is the official host of the event. The plaintiff's attorney is going to sue everybody inside.
Exactly.
He's going to sue every parent individually. They're going to sue the PTO. They're going to sue the school district, and they're going to let the insurance companies sort out who's got coverage for it. So whose name was on a particular form is not going to make any difference about whether a lawsuit gets started. But the fact that you have a policy, you have a policy that requires the PTO to have the insurance, $1 million is still a significant amount of insurance in place, and to indemnify the district, take over the legal responsibility for the district. Those are good protections for the district in that circumstance.
And what I will bring your attention to is that the language that, the reason this is before you is for the language that is at the very bottom in green, that was a recent change to legislation that says that coaches are able to be paid through SSOs. That is the new language. So I say that to say, you cannot, I mean, you can wait if that's what you want to do as a board, no problem. We can absolutely do that, but this is the new language that is before you that we are asking for advertisement for.
But there was also another policy that we had that was specific to that language that was addressed. So this is just going more granular into the fundraising and the liability insurance. And so just like I spoke before, when these things come up, we can look at the policy in totality and the related policies. And so that's essentially, I'm feeling like I haven't seen how we're implementing this in terms of our past history, what effect this would be on our current PTOs if if we've been enforcing it, and 3, how this affects our policy with regard to filling out, or procedures filling out our use of facilities. I'm also trying to protect ourselves. I don't want to create a liability insurance requirement that can be circumvented in another policy in some way, and so put us at greater risk or be interpreted by a principal in a different way. So that's where, to me, putting them together holistically makes more sense.
So the $1 million language, that's not new. The only new parts are is what's in green.
Correct.
So are we okay with at least moving on with that?
I don't see any reason to delay. There's not been a case here that there's going to be any other outcome other than the language that we've already discussed. So I don't think there's any reason to and it's gonna set precedents for the other policies, which are just gonna roll into the other ones. So I say we just continue to move forward with what we got here.
Yeah, I just think the communication with the campuses, because after researching, we're not streamlined, and I just want to make sure we're pushing everything out, because one knows one thing, one doesn't, and
that's my point.
Mr. Delaney.
Mr. Delaney.
One other reason, there is a benefit to going ahead and approving the new language in green, because it will create a significant challenge if you have a contract that comes forth for a coach that has not been collectively bargained. It is a supplement that's wildly out of line with everything else on the supplement schedule. It is for multi-years. These are challenges that other districts are facing now. So making it clear that those coaches can have a separate compensation arrangement with the booster club would actually make it easier for the district to operate.
But that is also statute, and this statement reinforces that statute, but doesn't essentially say, oh, like, for example, you could have special interests funneling money through these booster clubs, or there's a limit on one salary bonus that a booster club could give. So your exact point on to move it forward, I'm not understanding how this statement rectifies it or creates more urgency.
All right, we're gonna move on. I want further questions to go to district staff, but we still have 3 other policies.
Okay, may I just ask a question too? Because I think regardless of what, we need to bring this back. This was a request from Ms. Ruddy. 9215, 9211, 7510. Is there any other policy? Did I miss one that needs to come back?
Those are all that I know of,
Okay.
but I can't promise.
Okay, I will bring those back.
All right, Mr. Sanfilippo, I think we still have a couple.
Thank you, Mr. Bush.
The AA policy 754008. There was language added. Sent up for review. There was no questions to me earlier, so.
I'm just going to my 754, okay, let me get my. Yep, I'm good.
No questions. And then the 6605, which is crowdfunding. That was the last one. The other 3 we won't go through all that.
Comments, questions?
Okay. So to be clear, Ms. Moore, we have the 6608 we're holding on for language, 9211 and 9215. Are we holding on those or bringing this forward this evening? Hold on those for language?
Does it affect anything? I mean.
I say we just move forward with them.
There'll be a request to advertise.
Which, sorry, can you say instead of the number, what was the?
The SSO and the DSO policies,
The SSO and the what?
and the DSO policies. So direct support organizations and student support organizations.
Yes, I'm okay.
Yeah, let's bring it forth for advertising, and
Ms. Ruddy,
we can still reach out to you with further questions.
Well, our norms are whoever says it last and loudest, it moves forward. So we don't have a voting procedure, so.
Well, the
and-
vote's
and the
tonight.
informational
We don't
workshops.
vote at the workshops.
Right,
It's-
but that's what I'm,
So
I-
you can bring out.
but it's
at the
whether it's
workshop.
going forward or coming back, that we don't have a process in which we determine that when there is
Well,
disagreement.
there's just board direction. It's, tonight we will vote on it. I mean, the majority of the board here seems to want to move it forward, so that's how it goes.
Well, we didn't take a vote, so we
Well,
really.
it's-
Right. That's enough. Okay.
can I just clarify again, Ms. Moore, and so with any of these, specifically with the PTO and booster, if we can just make sure when you have your meetings with your teams, and I know you've been doing that just because PTO meetings and booster clubs are starting up, that it's very.
I have written myself a note.
Yeah,
that
just because.
tomorrow, I will be sending the email out to all of our school-based leaders, making sure that they are aware of this policy and that we can support our PTOs to ensure that our students don't miss any events, but they can be in compliance with policy.
That's the only
I'm
thing I
doing
just
that.
wanted.
Tomorrow, that will be done.
Thank you. I know you will, but I
I've
just.
already got the date of the first room fire PTO to make sure I
Thank
can
you, Mr.
attend,
Smith.
answer questions.
Thank you.
We're going on to 10.02, board approval of the small district council consortium.
Yes, so this is the annual renewal of your participation in the small school district council consortium. And we're bringing this before you for approval. There has not been any changes to this. That's all I have.
So we paid $3,250 to be part of this consortium. This is Mr. Doolin.
This is the information you received from Mr. Doolin. I would say weekly, but sometimes it's
Yeah,
daily.
sometimes it's 3 times
Daily.
a day.
He has his
on
own
it, he's on
folder.
it.
That he is, yes.
Okay.
We want- yeah.
That's all.
Great. Okay, then, anybody for public comments?
No, we don't have that comment.
All right, board member request. And closing comments.
Just save it for this evening.
Save it for this evening.
Yeah, I'll do the same.
Okay. All right, then this meeting is adjourned.